Dominic King on BBC Radio Kent.
12:15. A new verbatim play exploring the experiences of young people using smartphones and social media is looking at the impact on their mental health. It's been written and directed by Isabel Defoe of Portrait Theatre, the resident theatre company at the University of Kent, and uses the words of primary, secondary and university students from a series of interviews. The hope is that it'll be taken into schools across the county for parents and grandparents and caregivers to watch. I went along to the University of Kent to watch the first ever performance of Generation FOMO. You may find some of what you're about to hear upsetting.
Generation FOMO is a verbatim piece about young people and their use of smartphones and social media and how it affects their mental health, how it affects their daily life.
You know when there's a party that you haven't been invited to? I hate it. It's literally like my least favourite thing in the world.
Say you meet someone, Instagram, what's your Instagram? Got it. Quick little flick through, like you're reading a CV or something, and you pick out a few things. They like travelling, they like animals, they've got mates, they like a party, they like music.
In terms of sex, there's such pressure, even for boys who go on these porn sites so often, and they kind of project that onto their own relationships.
I'm Isabel Defoe, the writer and director of Generation FOMO.
We've all got FOMO, haven't we? I think we can't avoid it.
That's what social media is designed for, in a way, isn't it? That's what it's created. The title comes from several of the young people, actually, that I interviewed, that so many of them spoke about FOMO. And one of them put it really eloquently, and she said, we're a generation that has to live with FOMO more than any other generation because we are so aware of what everyone else is doing at all times.
How did it make you feel? You're a mum.
Wildly stressed. I found it wildly stressful. I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and this is absolutely not the world that I want for them. But I also recognise that there are limitations to what I, as a parent, can control. I also know that I need to model my own smartphone behaviour better, but I do think there is a responsibility of the big tech companies to really listen to the adverse impacts on young people.
In the Q&A that was happening here, you describe yourself as enjoying watching it, but feeling sick.
Absolutely. It was a really brilliant performance, and verbatim theatre is hugely impactful. But yeah, absolutely, to hear the voices of young people talk about smartphone addiction, talk about watching beheadings and pornography at the age of 11 is grotesque. And I think back to my own childhood and my own experiences, and it's exhausting to think that they're really kind of living this 24/7.
It is a hidden world from parents. And I hear a lot of parents that say that they don't get this kind of information from their children. Some of the interviews were interesting, actually, because, for example, some parents chose to leave Me Too it with their children. And one interview, one mother stayed in the room, and I thought, this will be interesting. Actually, that mother learnt a hell of a lot. She learnt a lot because, in fact, they were really candid, despite the fact that mum was in the room. Yeah, they're being honest with me because they know that their voice is going to be anonymous. They know that they can tell me the truth and their identity is protected. And they know that their voice is going to be heard through the actors.
I'm Lindsay Cameron. I'm a lecturer in psychology at the University of Kent.
When you realise what they're being exposed to and what we as adults can see whenever we like, but what children at a very young age might be seeing, what is the impact actually? Do we know yet?
I'm not sure we know the answer to that question yet, but we do know that in terms of reading or films or TV, children are quite good at self-censoring. So if there's something they don't like, they can just actually skip forward 10 pages. That might be what we're more used to as adults, thinking back to our teenage years. We don't know yet what the impact of seeing this really inappropriate material, or inappropes, as they called it in the play, is on children in that moment. But you can't help but think the continual being fed this kind of material all the time creates a kind of hardening.
Or a desensitizing.
Desensitizing or hardening to it. Like they kind of become used to it. It becomes normalised, as they said in the play.
So as adults, could that effectively change how they are empathetic with people, how they have friendships, how they have relationships?
Yeah, I think so. So when they see that kind of content online, or maybe they say comments or things that are a bit mean online, and then they can't switch their brain from online into real life, that kind of behaviour can leak into their interactions in the real world.
We're a generation that's had to learn to live with FOMO probably more than anybody else.
I wish nobody had a phone.
I want this dialogue to enter government. I want there to be a change. Right now some schools ban phones, some schools don't. There should be a policy on this. Kids actually want us to have boundaries for them in place. They want those boundaries. They want those bans. And we need to be supporting them. We need to be doing that. We need to take responsibility as adults to do that. The next step would be to tour it. And the next step for me is to go into schools, but not necessarily for those young people. Those young people know the story, but they need their teachers, their head teachers, their parents to be in the room with them. Those young people, they need to feel heard.
Writer and director Isabel Defoe.